things have I spoken unto you, that in me might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world.
We know that we are from God, and the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities.
Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. No man can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon.
Their whole purpose throughout history has been to teach a small number of people how to become adept at controlling everyone else, and presenting their societies as desirable to the profane, so that you'll go knock on the door and say, hey, can I be a member? And be initiated, with the promise of learning some great secret. What is that secret? The secret is how to control everybody else. And you never understand how to control everybody else until you get to the top of this pyramid of initiation. Most people never make it past the third step. All above that are carefully chosen.
Congratulations to you, chosen ones. And I am calling you the chosen ones because you have been chosen in many ways. Today you mark your graduation, which has come during the restructuring of time and of science, of our own national will, and of a worldwide commonwealth. During the Great Reset, the Great Reboot. You're joining in the work that has to be done. You chosen ones are going to form the new structures and define the new realities and make the new world, the world after all that we have been through.
The date is the 16th of February 2010, and this is a bit of an unusual video presentation here. Our source attended a number of meetings with senior Masons. While many of these were interesting, they were routine by City of London standards. They were discussing financial affairs and so on and so forth. And then in the June 2005, he attended another meeting that he thought was going to be a routine meeting, but actually this was something rather unusual, and he realized it was unusual as soon as he arrived. In fact, he felt it was an accident that he was there. He shouldn't really have been there. He didn't know what was happening. The people there were Masons. There were senior Masons, including senior politicians who most people in the UK would recognize by name. The chief of police was there, representatives from the church, representatives from the military. What they were talking about was a plan that had clearly been made a long time ago, and what they were discussing was they were discussing the implementation of this plan. They were discussing how things were going, whether they were on track or not. They were talking about China and how powerful China was getting, both militarily and financially. China was getting too strong too quickly. Other things that were discussed were, for example, the coming financial crash, the centralization of resources, everything that we saw starting to happen in October 2008. They were planning that and referring to it in their meeting in June 2005. There was clearly a rollout of some plan here, and he was quite shocked the more that he heard, and when he really realized what was happening, he was extremely shocked. Things are being set up in many of the Western countries for there to be heavy controls over populations, martial law, increased powers on security forces who are not just the army or the police, but in Britain, for example, our source said that he absolutely knew personally for a fact, that a very large number of private security people their powers were being increased to give them the ability to arrest people, the ability to detain, the ability to handle riots in streets. And here we're talking about just regular people working in private security. And last year we heard President Obama talking about how he wanted to have a sort of National Guard at home in America ready to handle this kind of thing. There are a lot of indicators that this is being set up. And then the next thing that happens in this chess game that's being played is that biological weapons are released on China. You heard this being discussed in this meeting. They will release a flu-like virus that will be genetically targeted against the Chinese population. It's designed to spread like wildfire and to knock out a large number of the Chinese people. And these people in this meeting were laughing about this. They said, China will catch a cold. Those were their words. China will catch a cold. And after that, then what effectively will be a kind of plague will actually spread right across the world to the West as well. Our source was not clear whether this was a Chinese retaliation or whether the thing would just spread out of control in the way that it would be very understandable if it did, whether it's racially targeted or not. These things actually mutate. So now you've got a situation, there's a pandemic that really is sweeping across the world, and you've got this totalitarian military lockdown in all the governments in the Western worlds because everyone's going to be in panic about all of this. The idea is that as the world looks upon this with horror, then they will demand from their governments that there are heavy controls over travel, over communication, over people who meet, over people who protest in the streets. And because people will be driven into fear by this, they'll request and demand and insist on heavy controls from their governments, which will be justified. And this is where you're going to kind of get the martial law situation in all the Western countries. It's intended as a justification. All of this is just the start of something.
And that is a plan to intentionally collapse Western society. These are men with a radical revolutionary agenda throughout the entire world because they worship and follow a radical revolutionary deity, the first to have led a revolt against the Most High Lord.